WBNE.
Hello, and welcome to episode 45, all about the Siege of Gondor, Chapter 4, Book 5 of The Return of the King, being the 45th part of That's What I'm Tolkien About. Hello, my name is Mary Clay. If that's too complicated for you, just call me MC. And today I'm joined once again by Haley Simpkiss of Brandy Lane Publishers, and also one of my, common room mates or whatever on the restricted section.
I don't know if we've actually, established, a name for the group.
Yeah.
I think Christina's said book club.
Yeah,
book
that's
club
it.
members.
Yeah,
there
we're
we
all
go.
just book
yeah,
club
fellow
members.
book club member. Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Yes, Haley's back for a doozy of a chapter. Holy cow.
Oh, dang. Whew.
I don't think I realized, it's also kind of on the longer side compared to how these chapters have been. It was a little over 20 pages.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also one of the only times thus far in this series / book, whatever, that I was like, I'm turning the page to find out what happens next. I'm reading. I want to sit here and finish this rather than oh my God, another page about landscape, another page about horses.
Yeah, no, the writing of this chapter is so drastically different from, most of the rest of the series. The sentences are very short. You get a lot of repeating phrases, especially towards the end. This is the chapter where you read it and you're like, oh, right, J.R.R. Tolkien literally fought in World War I. You've got the trenches and the siege lines and, the building dread throughout the days and, the brown murk in the air, and, you can taste his trauma. It's really messed up.
It's too accurate. There's one point where I was like, Tolkien, I think you need to go talk to someone about you're
projecting my dude.
Trauma here, because this is intense, even for you, bud. But yeah, he does a really good job of setting the tone and the mood for this, where it all feels kind of hopeless. You feel
and
almost trapped with them.
The most messed up part is that this whole chapter is from the most innocent character's perspective.
Oh.
It's all from Pippin's perspective. It opens with Pippin being like, what time is it? Is there breakfast?
Yeah.
Yes. And then it ends with the friggin' Witch King of Agmar. It's messed up.
Oh my God.
Because, you've just got little baby Pippin, he's not taking it seriously at first. And then as the days go on, it's the way that it's written, it's almost like it's delivering a report. There's every day gets a paragraph of and then the dread got worse, and then the dread got worse, and then they got more bad news, and then the dread got worse. And Pippin's just sitting there what is happening? Yeah. What is going to happen? Am I going to be okay?
Oh, Pippin. That's a great thing to point out, that it's, I don't think I connected those dots of, it's from the perspective of, I would say the most innocent, naive of the characters, because even Mary is a little bit less, naive than Pippin is.
Mary's just a little more of a pragmatist, and I think that my perception of kind of the way that Tolkien projects on his characters is that the two that he, I think, identifies the most closely with are probably Pippin and Faramir. He always kind of associated himself with the Took family. He actually thought that he was actually incorrect in this, but he had a theory that his surname, Tolkien, was cognate with the same word that the word for fool comes from. Which is where the whole fool of a Took thing is. So he really identifies with the Tooks. And I think he really identifies with Pippin because he kind of saw himself as being sort of a fuddy-duddy, nonsense person, which he kind of was. And then Faramir is Faramir I've always read as Tolkien at war. I think that Faramir is sort of his projection of what use I was during the war, what I was like. I contributed as much as I could, but I really had no business being there. I'm a scholar. I'm supposed to be a scholar. I was doing my part. I was doing my duty because I felt strongly that I was supposed to, but really I should have been in a library.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah. So as you already said, Pippin, when he wakes up, he asks Gandalf what time it is. It's 2 a.m, I'm assuming, because it says past the second hour. And he has been called to Denethor, and Pippin goes, "And will he provide breakfast?" And Gandalf goes, "No." He's like, "Here you go.
I've provided breakfast.
This is all you're going to get till noon." Pippin looked ruefully at the small loaf, and he thought, very inadequate pat of butter, which was set out for him beside a cup of thin milk. I love this. "Why did you bring me here?" he said. "You know quite well," said Gandalf, "to keep you out of mischief, and if you do not like being here, you can remember that you brought it on yourself." Right off the bat, just like, Pippin's at peak Pippin, and Gandalf is at peak Gandalf.
Yes, I think that they're both peak themselves around each other. Like, their dynamic is absolutely hilarious to me.
Oh, I just love the... why am I here?
This place sucks. They don't even have food. And Gandalf's like, yeah, they're rationing because they're at war.
And also, like, you made a massive mistake, you dummy. And I saved you. And you should be lucky to even be here at all.
You are lucky that I'm talking to you right now,
and
I'm only doing it because there's no one else to talk to. Shut up.
Oh, man.
Gandalf is so done in this whole chapter.
I love it, I love it.
And, like, he has a right to be.
Oh my god, yeah. So, so they report to Denethor, and Denethor is like, "So, Pippin, what abilities, what talents do you bring to the table for this war?" And Pippin's like, "I can sing. I mean, the songs that I know probably aren't appropriate for the situation because all of our songs are happy and usually they're just all drinking songs. And that's just like wildly inappropriate for this context. But I can sing anyway."
It's like a reverse job interview. It's like you already have the job, and then they're like, "All right, so what are you gonna do for us?" It's like, I have no qualifications, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, he has 0 qualifications.
Maybe you should have looked at my resume before accepting my oath of service. But that's on you, my dude.
Right.
Like Pippin would have a resume. He has a CVV.
And Denethor's like, "That's okay. It's all right if your songs are a little more lighthearted than fit the situation, because we need some cheer right about now." And also, what's weird is that, like, Tolkien wrote this part where Pippin's like, "Yeah, I can sing," and Denethor's like, "Great, you can sing for us." And then in this entire chapter, there's no song. I was amazed. I was expecting for there at some point to be a song like he does in every single other f***ing chapter in this book. And there's no song in the chapter where he wrote a situation where it would make sense for there to be a song.
Mm-hmm.
He is
an enigma. This chapter's way too dark. Like, that's how you know this chapter is dark. That's how you know that, like, shit's about to get real.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he didn't do a song.
Again, like, this chapter is so different from every other one. Just everything about the style. So,
Pippin goes to... Denethor sends him off to, I guess, watch duty, I think. And he's like...
he sends him off to, like, get, like, his uniform. Mm-hmm. I guess they have, like, a teeny tiny uniform for him.
Yeah, their little baby uniforms. It's like, this is a child small, but I guess it'll work for you.
And then he has him start guard duty, ?
I know, right? Just like a side note. So Pippin was like kind of relieved to be able to go out and go to duty because it says, "For Pippin felt imprisoned indoors." And I'm like, boy, you don't know the half of it right now. We are.
Yeah. How you doing with that, MC?
You
how
don't
you doing with
understand. I have made a lot of TikToks, is how I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of puzzles. I've got one of a blueprint right now.
We have a completed puzzle sitting on our table right now, but I didn't do this one. My roommate did this one. So I can't take any ownership of this. Although
that's fair.
I do pride myself. The past couple times that she and her boyfriend have been working on a puzzle, I come out of my room and they're like, oh, we're missing, this happened twice. We're missing an edge piece. And I look at the pile of pieces and I'm like, within a second, I'm like, here it is. And then I place it in the last spot and then I just walk away. And I'm like, okay, that's my superpower. That's the only thing I can do here.
I've got the same thing with four-leaf clovers. I can always spot a four-leaf clover.
So that's what we bring to the table in a war situation. If Denethor asked us, like,
being ourselves under siege.
So what can you do for Gondor? Well, I'm really good at finding the edge pieces of a puzzle.
I'm great at finding things. I'm a finder.
I'm not a Hufflepuff, though.
Hufflepuffs are particularly good finders.
I'm about as far from a Hufflepuff as they get.
I'm cusp.
I was like, I can't remember if you're Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff.
Oh no, I definitely fall on the side of the claw. The claw! But, I mean, there's some puff elements in my personality, I won't deny it.
I get it. So... Then, as Pippin is stating their Overwatch, he has this moment where he's like, wow, how did I get here? That's incredible. He has like an out-of-body experience of like, that's crazy. That I'm just
sees himself and
I'm a hobbit and I was in the Shire like a year ago. And now I'm probably gonna die fighting for Gondor. What the
just sees himself in, like, the context of the situation and is like, oh, I am ill-equipped. I do not belong here.
Freeze frame. Yep, that's me. I bet you're wondering how I got here.
I mean, literally, this entire chapter, that's what he's thinking.
Oh, Pippin. And then he's talking to Baragon. Baragon is there. They meet up again, and they're talking about, like, wow, this seems, like, really dreadful and impending doom. This is awful. And Pippin's like, yeah, and the worst part is that I'm starving.
Fair.
He says, I'm not used, Master Baragon, to wait, which I believe that is Tolkien. No, it's not him splitting the infinitive, because the infinitive is to waiting. Is to wait. It just that I read this sentence over and over because I was like, this sounds weird, because it says, I'm not used, Master Baragon, to waiting hungry on others while they eat. And I was like, how would I have put that?
No, it's very roundabout.
But
it's a very roundabout phrasing. It's not grammatically incorrect, but it's like right on the edge.
But it's also like doesn't sit well with me. Okay, I can't harp too much on like weird grammatical things because so much happens in this chapter. Honestly, there's also a good chance that this episode might be split into a part 1, part 2 situation. So
that's fair. We've got a lot of ground to cover.
Without so moving from the
we've got a lot of ground to cover and we never leave the city.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Then as they're guarding the city, I guess, or watching, it happens. Oh, snap. Here they come. It's all going down now. There is a shuddering cry. It was the same that he had heard long ago in the marsh of the Shire, but now it was grown in power and hatred, piercing the heart with a poisonous despair. Oh, snap. It's happening, y'all.
Here come them boys.
We about to have a battle. And they look down and they see there's a bunch of black riders, as Pippin still calls them. Nazgul, Ringwraiths, Black Riders. Tolkien was like, I don't want to pick one name for these.
Tolkien's all about like kennings, which are like an old school thing where like everything has at least a couple of indirect names. Mm-hmm. Like an old Norse kenning for the sea is like water road.
Ooh.
Because you get on a ship and it's like a road, but it's on the water, but it's the sea. Like, and again, stodgy old linguist with a particular interest in, like, the mythologies of Northern Europe, of course he's going to abuse the hell out of that. Mm-hmm.
And he does that with the Nazgul King. Also, like, Lord of the Nazgul, the Dark Lord, the Dark Captain,
Witch King of Agmar,
the Black
How many
Captain.
Dark Lords do you really need? Yep.
He has 20 names for this one guy, and I was like, I'm assuming that's like That's the Ring Wraith King that we got a glimpse of in Two Towers.
That's the dude who actually stabbed Frodo in book 1. Like he's like the chief of it's the same dude. He's like the chief of the Nazgul. He's like the worst one.
Well, I missed that. Oops.
I mean, it wasn't like explicit in Fellowship, but like it's that guy.
Okay,
like there's only 9 of them, but he's like the queen bee.
Then the more he's the Regina George.
Yes, evil takes a human form. Yes.
Oh, and then I laughed at this. Baragon gives a god-awful commentary of what's happening down below in the fields because so all these Black Riders come in. And they're chasing Faramir's crew, army, whatever.
I think it's just a crew at this point.
And they're like all dead. Oh wait, no, he sent them. He
sent them
That's
to
right,
Osgiliath?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So Baragon is like, says, Faramir, the Lord Faramir, it is his call, brave heart. But how can he win to the gate if these foul hellhawks have other weapons than fear? But look, they hold on, they will make the gate. No, the horses are running mad. Look, the men are thrown. They are running on foot. No, one is still up, but he rides back to, it's like back and forth like that for a full paragraph of like, oh my God, they're not going to make it. Oh wait, I think they were going to make it.
I'm just hearing it in like a football commentator's voice. Yeah.
That's what I literally wrote.
But they're running on foot. No, one is still up, and he rides back to the others. That will be the captain. He can master both beasts and men. Ah, there are one of the foul things stooping on him. Help, help, will no one go out to him? Faramir!
You sound like the commentator in The Legend of Korra.
There appear to be masked members of the audience wielding strange devices on their hands. One of them is in the booth with me right now, folks. He is leveling one of those glove devices at me now, and I believe he is about to electrocute me. I am currently wetting my pants.
For whatever sport it is that they do. Oh, I can't remember what the name of that thing is, but they have like the matches. Hey there, you don't need to tweet at me. I have since learned that it is called pro-bending. That is the phrase I was looking for.
Whenever I try to do an announcer voice, I immediately devolve into like a 1920s radio commentator, and that is exactly what they were going for, so you're not wrong.
Yeah. Oh, man, side note. I'm so excited for Avatar: The Last Airbender to hit Netflix.
Bro.
I'm so hyped.
Oh my God.
I'm so hyped.
It's like the closest thing to hope I've felt in so long.
I'm so excited because I don't even know if I've seen all of the episodes. I feel like there are a couple here and there that like I missed. And I'm excited to watch through it all and be like, oh my God, they were so little and wholesome. And then afterwards I'll watch Legend of Korra and I'll want to die a little bit because it's so much bleaker and depressing.
Yeah. I have a lot of feelings about Legend of Korra. Don't get me started right now.
Well, what are your feelings?
My feelings are that the production was nerfed and that the story could have been a lot better if that had not been the case.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
The seasons were very short. I think the last one was only ever released online. I think that the reason for that was partially due to M. Night Shyamalan's fiasco, and partially due to the fact that it was a brown female main character, and Nickelodeon decided that despite the fact that the original series is one of the most perfectly told stories ever made in any medium, that no, it just won't sell toys. So they gave them shorter seasons and wouldn't tell them that they were going to renew for the next seasons until very late, so they had to keep trying to wrap up every season in a self-contained thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what
I have a lot of opinions about that.
That's what the first season feels very much like. This was supposed to be a one-season thing. They came in, told this cool story about this guy, the Equalist, or whoever, Amon.
Here's the thing, because now you got me started, Nancy. Oh, I told you not to, and now we're here. So, the last, 2-3 episodes of the first season of Legend of Korra is, all exposition and flashbacks. but you can tell from the way that, like, most of that season was set up that they were planning to extend a lot of that into, like, a season 2, and then, like, just they wouldn't confirm them for a season 2 while they were doing production for season 1, and they were like, well, now we've got to wrap up this whole story in season 1, and then they keep having to come up with new self-contained arcs for every season, when they could have had, like, a whole extended thing with, like, introducing the Red Lotus, and, like, getting the Airbenders back, and, like, the whole...
Okay. We
deep
will
breaths.
return to this at a later date. Who knows?
The production team did the best they could.
Yeah. God, I don't even know where I was. Oh, we were talking about Baragon being a commentator. That's how we went there. Yes. So, Faramir's team makes it through the gates in time. Oh, because... I love how Tolkien will, like, he tries to disguise the fact that, oh, it's Gandalf all the time.
Like, we know it's Gandalf.
They'll be like, oh, a mysterious figure shining in white light, riding on one of the fastest horses ever created, appeared.
Who could it be?
And saved everything. And it's like, it's Gandalf. And he does it twice in this one chapter. And it's like, it's obviously Gandalf. We know this.
You only needed to do that once.
Let's just be like, oh, look, it's Gandalf. That's all you gotta do.
MC, stop expecting Jerry Randall Tolkien to economize with his storytelling. He's not going to do it.
So Gandalf shows up, saves the day, because Nazgul starts swooping down, and right as it's about to, like, get Faramir and everyone, Gandalf shows up, shoots him with a beam of light, which is just, I think, once again, Tolkien being like, magic. Magic.
Yeah.
Like that, just general magic.
Yeah. No, like there's like a whole theory about this of like hard versus soft magic systems. And like Tolkien's magic system is considered like the softest of the soft, where like basically the distinction is that like a soft magic system is where it's like magic exists, but like not the way that you generally think of magic. Yeah. It's more like influence over nature type stuff, and it's really never specified.
Yeah.
Whereas a hard magic system is more like there are distinct set rules and consequences for if you break those rules.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he keeps it vague so that he can just do whatever the hell he wants to do with it, essentially.
You're not wrong.
So, Faramir and everyone come running into the tower, and Faramir sees Pippin, and he's like, what? A halfling? How the heck did, like, I thought I met the only two that had left the Shire. And then Gandalf comes in and goes, he came with me, but let us not tarry here. There's much to do and say, and you are weary. So I love that Gandalf is like, yeah, he's a hobbit.
Yeah.
He came with me. Like, long story short, let's just get in there and start talking about how we are, okay? Let's just, we've told this story a million times about how the hobbits left the Shire and blah, 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 blah. We don't have time for that.
So much of, like, the new character meetings in this whole series are just people being like, I've only thought you existed in stories. What the hell are you doing in real life?
Yeah.
Like, anytime someone meets a hobbit, anytime the hobbits meet an elf, like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. So they go in and sit down, and they have, like, a really intense conversation where I was like, good God, Denethor. That's your son.
I think the first time that I was on your podcast, we talked about how Boromir was going to make sense when you met Denethor. This is what I meant. This is the exact scene that I was referring to.
I still don't think Boromir really makes sense. Like, I don't think Denethor helps explain Boromir. Because
the thing
is that I would understand Boromir a lot more if it was the reverse. If Faramir was the favorite and Boromir was the one that he didn't like, and he put all this pressure on him to be so Faramir and Denethor are talking about like what Faramir's done and Faramir was like, "Oh, I said, are you okay? You're looking around."
Oh no, I smell a disturbance.
Oh. I was like, is there a ghost? What?
No.
So Faramir updates Denethor and says, I sent pretty much all of my men to Osgiliath to help fortify that and strengthen that area, because I think that's our area that we need. That, like, if that part falls, we're screwed. And Denethor is basically like, God, can't you do anything right? Even though I think that was the right move to send your forces to Osgiliath.
Denethor isn't pissed about Faramir sending his men to Osgiliath. He's pissed because Faramir just got to the end of a story in which he let some random hobbit wander off into the mountains with the Ring of Power. Like, that's what Denethor's pissed about. And, like, the whole thing with, like, the reason that Denethor kind of favors Boromir, because here's the thing, I stan Boromir specifically for Faramir, because Faramir loved Boromir, so, like, that's good enough for me, because Faramir's my boy. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing with Gondor is that, like, here's what Gondor is bordered by. The sea, a desert, fantasy Nebraska, Rohan, and a country of evil, like, that's ruled by an evil, immortal eldritch being that has a grudge against them specifically, and is content to just chip away at their kingdom over the course of centuries. And, like, no one has been helping them this entire time. So Boromir gets sent out from Gondor to go and, like, discern the meaning of this weird dream that he and Faramir both had. And he turns up in Rivendell, and everyone's just sitting there talking about, like, their lineage and how great they are. And he's like, great, where have you all been? 'Cause, yeah, we've got, like, 2 cities left, and the evil wizard is still trying to kill all of us. And that's, like, the one weapon right there sitting in front of us that could maybe possibly destroy him. Just throwing this out there, maybe we should use it. And everyone else is right in saying that, like, no, you absolutely cannot use it to kill him because it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
But you can kind of see where he's coming from, because, like, over the course of centuries, Gondor has gotten very insular just because they're under attack all of the time, constantly. So, like, yeah, Denethor puts a lot of pressure on Boromir, and, like, Boromir usually lives up to his expectations. And now he's just got Faramir, who's kind of a nerd, and hangs out with Gandalf, who Denethor doesn't like, because Gandalf knows more than him. Yeah. So now you've got this very awkward, like, family reunion.
Mm-hmm. I would say that's, like, putting it lightly, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when your dad straight up tells you, like, I wish you had died instead of your brother.
So,
like, oof.
As Faramir is telling Denethor, like, oh, I sent all these people to Osgiliath, what do you think of that? Denethor is like, how dare you ask whether or not I approve of your decisions? Like, what, are you a baby? Do you need me to coddle you? And
how about you ask Gandalf what he thinks about your decisions?
Yeah, and then, and he's also mad because he can tell. He says, I can see and hear, as was my wont, and little of what you have half said or left unsaid is now hidden from me. So, and I know the answer to many riddles. Alas for Boromir, if what I have done displeases you, my father, I wish I had known your counsel before the burden of so witty a judgment was thrust on me. And, then Denethor's like, why wasn't Boromir here? And Faramir goes, do you wish then that our places had been exchanged? And Denethor straight up says, yes, I wish that indeed, for Boromir was loyal to me and no wizard's pupil. And I'm like, damn. Like, it was one thing in chapter 1 of this book when Denethor was telling other people that he wished Faramir had died instead of Boromir and that he loved Boromir the most. But, like, it's another thing to just straight up say it dead in the eyes of your son.
To his face.
Yeah.
And Faramir, to his eternal credit, claps back, because he's like, hey, do you remember when I volunteered to go to Rivendell to talk about the dream that I had first and Boromir had second, and you said that I had to stay and Boromir had to go? Because, I remember that.
Also, Faramir's been off in Ithilien. Sure, that's how you say it. He's been off there fighting. That's not nothing. It's not like, oh, Faramir is the screw up set. It's literally like he's doing everything right, and Denethor is like, God, why did I bring you into this world?
I love Faramir so
my
much.
God.
He tries so hard.
Well, what's funny though to me is that I almost interpret Faramir as just being like done with Denethor and being like, okay, look, I get it. You don't like me. I don't like you. We'll just accept that, and we'll just accept that, like, I am the screw-up child. I get it. Okay, moving on. How do we, move forward with this war situation?
Well, like, Faramir's whole thing is that, like, he doesn't particularly like being a warrior. Like, he's not that into glory. He's not that into, like, the...
Which is why he's so much better.
Hero. He's just trying to do his best, and, like, that's why the whole Ithilien thing is, like, Ithilien isn't a glorious place to be fighting. He's fighting in, like, skirmishes. Like, there's no great, like, no one's gonna write a song about anything that he's been doing out there. So as far as Denethor is concerned, he's a failure. And, like, Faramir just wants to do his damn job and, like, maybe make his dad proud, but at this point he's internalized so much of that disappointment that he's, like, kind of just, he's given up on that, but he's not going to give up on his city.
I was gonna say, there's a huge impression that, like, the city loves Faramir. They love him. And they're like...
Everyone loves Faramir. He's a good boy.
He's our homeboy. Like, he's gonna... It's like Obama, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we all met, like, he was our homeboy, you know?
Yeah.
And we feel like a comfort.
God, I miss him.
When we see even just, like, a tweet from him. We're like, oh, what a good boy. We miss you.
Dad's still out there. Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's what Faramir is like. And he's the hero, what is it? The hero we deserve, but not the one we need. Is that it?
He's the hero
quote?
we need, but not the one we deserve. Because no one could deserve Faramir.
Oh, that's true.
One person could deserve Faramir. You're not there yet, though.
Oh boy.
Just don't worry about it.
Wait.
Don't worry about it.
Wait.
Don't worry about it.
Wait. I think I've connected
so
some
anyway,
dots.
Faramir and Della.
I think I've connected some dots.
You didn't connect. You didn't connect. You didn't connect. Let's move on.
Okay. So
anyway, Faramir and Denethor.
So they're having this, like, really intense conversation, and then Gandalf jumps in and is like, okay, all right, let's calm down. Let's, like, not tell our sons that we wish they were dead.
If we can help it.
Like, let's all take a breath. And then Denethor, like, turns on Gandalf and is like, no, you shut the f*** up. We could have used this ring, and you sent it with a f***ing hobbit to what is it called? Mordor, where it is, that's never gonna work. That's the dumbest plan that you've ever thought of in your entire life. How dare you? And
also, I love how Denethor, like, contradicts himself here. He's like, you sent our only hope into enemy hands. And Gandalf's like, all right, well, what would you have done with the ring if you had it
like,
here? And he's like,
I don't
locked
know.
it in a vault, except maybe used it. But locked it in a vault, except maybe used it. Except locked it in a vault, but definitely would have used it. And Gandalf's like, case in point.
Yeah, Gandalf said, so Denethor is, like, criticizing what's happened and criticizing that Boromir didn't come back with the ring, and that the hobbits took the ring to Mordor and all this stuff. And Gandalf asks him, well, what would you have done? And or he says, okay, fine, give me your 2 cents on this. And he says, enough to perceive that there are 2 follies to avoid. To use this thing is perilous. At this hour, to send it into the hands of a witless halfling into the land of the enemy himself, as you have done. And this son of mine, this is madness. Or that is madness. Yeah, and he asks him, like, well, what would you have done? And Denethor just says, neither. Which leaves no other, what other options? And this is just, like, very intense back and forth. Kind of similar almost to what Frodo and Boromir were doing at the end of Fellowship, where Frodo is like, bro, you can't take the ring and use, I know that, like, you want to use it for good reasons, but, like, it doesn't work that way.
It's, like, the whole thing is that it's going to corrupt your reasons.
Like, it's not, you can't, I know you think that you're strong enough to overpower it and you'll use it for good reasons, and you'll use it to, like, defeat everything and bring glory to your land, but it's gonna corrupt you and it's not gonna be a good situation. And it's pretty much the same conversation.
It is gonna super duper backfire.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same conversation here with Gandalf and Denethor.
But like Gondor's whole thing is that like they've got this very insular pride now because they've been on their own for so long, and that's really exemplified in both Denethor and like by extension Boromir. Like they really do think they can handle it. There's like I've been fighting this war my whole life. You know, what can't I withstand?
Yeah,
because they can't imagine like the scope of the ring's power.
So this is why, and this is controversial, but I don't care. This is why I think that Boromir is a Gryffindor and not a Slytherin, is because he is very loyal to his land and very protective. Right. And like I said before, how he wanted to take the ring not to have the power for himself, but he wanted to take it and save his land and his people. And... Yeah.
I mean, I think you're completely right.
And then but then you also mix in some of that, like, dumb Gryffindor jock energy in there, and that's why he's Boromir.
You're absolutely right.
And then Faramir's
that's not a
like...
hot take for me, that's...
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think that Boromir is like a Gryffindor with a little bit of like a Slytherin edge, like just enough, whereas Faramir is a Gryffindor with like a little bit of a Ravenclaw edge.
Yeah, I was gonna say...
Like, you can look at the situation objectively enough to be like, I feel this way, but I know that it's not right. Like, I kind of want to take this ring, but like, the fact that I want to take it is not good.
Yeah, I think Faramir is very much like a Hermione Gryffindor.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've like covered this with anyone, but like, you know, like Gandalf's whole sabbatical in Fellowship and that like big time skip where he's out like, is it the ring or isn't it the ring? Because I'm pretty sure it's the ring. He spent a lot of that time in Gondor, like studying in their like libraries and their archives. And that was when he first met Faramir, when Faramir was a kid. And, like, Faramir ended up hanging out with him a lot, which is why Denethor refers to him as a wizard's pupil in this, because Faramir has a lot of loyalty to Gandalf.
Is this learned in the Silmarillion?
No, the Silmarillion is a lot of backstory.
Okay.
I'm not sure where that crops up, but it's definitely, like, confirmed somewhere.
Because, like...
Like, I don't know the chapter off the top of my head.
I think that stuff is really interesting, and I'm like, okay, but Tolkien, like... What?
Because, like...
Why didn't you include it?
Infuriates me. This is the thing that infuriates me about this series is that like he'll sneak those little like interpersonal connections in there, but
with none of the context.
The whole framing of the story is that it's a history. Like this is meant to be taken as like the record of a war, and it's a little more interpersonal than like most records would be because it's written from the perspectives of the people most involved. But there are, like, big parts, especially the parts that the hobbits aren't involved in, that are completely skipped. So, or, like, very much glossed over, and, like, that's one of them. And it would have made it, like, so much more engaging, not necessarily interesting, but more engaging to get more of that, like, that political stuff that the hobbits don't necessarily have a lot of interest in, and therefore isn't really explored.
Yeah. I think it also helps you to, like, connect with the characters more.
Yes.
Especially characters like Faramir or Gandalf who, like, we don't really see a lot of, and, like, or with Gandalf when we do see him, he's just being really extra and being mysterious and aloof.
Well, because, like, all of the characters, pretty much aside from the hobbits, are supposed to seem like these figures from legend to, like, further juxtapose them to the hobbits who are, like, country bumpkins. And, like... And that framing device is effective, but it does sacrifice, like, those heroic characters as characters a little bit. So you have to, like, get into a lot of the subtext to really start seeing them as people instead of, like, historical figures, which is kind of how he wants them to come across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they have this crazy conversation. And Denethor is able to... Even though Faramir never was like, oh yeah, they mentioned this ring that they were going to go destroy Mordor, he's able to pick up on that fact, and then they're eventually able to pick up that, somehow they're able to pick up that they were traveling with Gollum, because Gandalf talks about Gollum when him and Pippin leave later.
Yeah, they kind of gloss over Faramir's report a little bit, but I think Faramir's report covers they were traveling with this weird scraggly thing, and I don't know. They went to some weird valley. I don't know.
One of my favorite descriptions of Gollum is in Two Towers, and one of Faramir's men is like, "Yeah, I thought I saw something that looked like a large black squirrel without a tail." And
that checks out.
Yeah, and I was like, beautiful. Easy breezy.
Nice.
Cover girl.
Maybe he's born with it. Maybe he was in a cave for 400 years.
Yeah, being corrupted by ancient evil.
An evil piece of jewelry.
So they gather that the reason all of this battle is coming towards them, has nothing to do with Frodo and Sam, because they realize that Frodo and Sam have probably gotten through because Sauron is turning all of his attention here. And so he's not paying as much attention to his own land, which also is the same logic that Gollum gave them when they were like, this seems kind of dangerous and not a smart way to travel at all. And he's like, Gollum was like, they're not going to be looking this way. He's looking other ways because he has other battles to do right now. And
yeah, because no one in their right mind is going to sneak into Mordor. It's Mordor. It's like sneaking into Chernobyl. Someone might do it, but they're gonna die. So why would he have checkpoints set up? He's really not thinking that anyone is going to be trying to get past his enemy lines, because who would be dumb enough to do that? And the answer is two hobbits and a weird frog.
And then we just hard cut to Frodo, Sam, and Gollum oh God,
this is awful. I hate this.
What have we gotten ourselves into here? And Pippin asks him, so is there any hope at all that what they're gonna do is actually gonna work? And Gandalf is like, I mean, maybe, but who knows? It's, they have as good a chance as any of us. And so then they go to bed, and the next day...
Oh, wait. Side note, has anyone gone over the name Cirith Ungol?
Oh, Cirith Ungol? I think it's Cirith. What about it?
Either way, so there's all this dread surrounding this pass.
Yes.
There's no one knows exactly why it's so creepy, but there's something messed up there. Even Faramir, I think, in Two Towers, warns them, there's some dark, unspoken dread. We know not what it is. Cirith Ungol means Pass of the Spider?
Oh, but that makes a lot more sense, given what we know about a certain gluttonous, ancient, evil Spider Queen.
Yeah. And, God love Faramir, but, he speaks Sindarin. It's like with medieval lords who spoke Latin. He knows the language. It means Pass of the Spider, Faramir. What the do you think is up there?
Why spiders? Why couldn't we follow the butterflies?
Well, the other thing that he says when he's talking to Frodo and Sam about this is that oh, I can't believe you're going that way. My men will, based on what we've heard, legend and everything, none of us have gone there, but from what we've heard from stories, it's not, don't do that. So I wonder if the old stories that they've heard and have been passed down from this place are about Shelob and about men who went there and were and came back and they're there's a fucking big ass spider in there, man.
Well, I think no one ever just comes back alive, or if they do, it's because they did not run into Shelob, but also it's called the Pass of the Spider. You live in a world that is known to have giant evil spiders. If there's a place called Pass of the Spider where people die mysteriously all the time, you can pretty much guess what's going to be lurking up there.
Look, these men are men, is my reasoning for that.
You're not wrong. That's fair.
They need
so Pippin and Gandalf.
Every group needs a Hermione. And when you don't have the Hermione, things like that happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Just bring bug spray. That's all I'm saying. Bring bug spray.
So Pippin and Gandalf. Where is it? Yeah, so they wake up or Pippin wakes up and things have already like been set into motion since he has woke, like while he was sleeping. There was a meeting with just as the council. Let's see so I guess the Council of Gondor or whatever.
Yep.
And Tolkien just casually slips in this character called the Prince with no further explanation. Doesn't give him a name. Never met. It just said, what of Caer Andros, said the prince, that too must be held if Osgiliath is defended. And then he's mentioned like maybe one or two more times in this chapter of like the prince rode off to fight.
I know him.
I know him.
This is one of those esoteric things. I think he turned up earlier, like around the time Pippin arrived in the city, but this is the Prince of Dol Amroth, which is another one of Gondor's cities on the coast. And he's like, I think that Denethor's wife was like related to him somehow. So he's Prince Imrahil, but it's like a principality type prince.
Okay, I was like,
he's not like the son of a king.
I was like, since when the did Minas Tirith get a prince? And where has he been all this time?
Yeah, no, it's the much more like general sense.
Got it.
Yeah, like the princes of Renaissance Italy. Like prince is the highest rank that you're going to have. You're not going to have a king, but you're higher than a duke. So
got it. Great.
Be content. But yeah, that's Prince Imrahil.
So in this conversation, they're talking about which sides surrounding them need to be pretty much all of them, pretty much is the gist of it. But
like, well, which ones need to be fortified more?
The most, yeah.
All of them. It's Sauron, so all of them.
But they send Faramir and his crew down, I guess, south to the river in the Pelennor. Mm-hmm. I don't know where the Pelennor is except
the
south.
Pelennor is like this is my understanding. I haven't like looked at a map. But
it's
the
okay because the map doesn't help you at all because there is really nothing labeled the Pelennor on the map.
So the Pelennor is like the floodplain of the river sort of between Gondor and the Anduin, which is like Osgiliath is on the Anduin. So like that's where the pass like across the river is. So they're trying to defend Osgiliath because that's where all the bridges are and they don't want the orcs getting across the river. Because then they're going to like come onto the Pelennor and attack. The Pelennor I think has like a lot of fields, like a lot
that's
of
what I was
like farms and
kind of imagining.
But it's all been evacuated at this point. Like they know that this is coming. Like everyone is either inside the walls or has been evacuated to points beyond. So the Pelennor is like where this battle is taking place, and it's just like the floodplain around Gondor.
Okay, that's kind of what I was imagining, but I wasn't sure. Anyway.
Again, this is all from Pippin's perspective, and he has none of this context, so he's as confused as you are.
Yeah. And as Faramir leaves, the town says, the Lord drives his son too hard, and now he must do the duty of two for himself and the one that will not return. So that's just like more evidence of like the town loves Faramir. Denethor fucking hates him. As he leaves, Gandalf is like very out of character and is like, hey Faramir, I know that your dad's hard on you, but deep down, maybe like really very deep down. He loves you, okay? So like,
dude, I don't
try not to get killed because your dad does love you.
I don't want to spoil any part of the movies for you because they're such an experience, but these couple of scenes between like Faramir and like the War Council and Faramir and Gandalf are played almost word for word in the film, and they are gut-wrenching.
I love it when
they hurt so bad.
I'm so excited to watch the movies. Anyway,
dude, you're gonna love them.
Where is it? So as we're recording this, yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the tweet that I did that started this all. Which was I tweeted podcast idea. I read Lord of the Rings for the first time, and it's called That's What I'm Talking About. And previous guest who has been on, and my friend Bethany, replied and was like, "What? How have you never seen or read Lord of the Rings? How do you not like the movie?" And my review of it was like, it's slow, nothing happens, and I don't remember anything from it. And like, given what I remember, given from like reading Fellowship, I'd say that's also a fair assessment of like, it's slow and not that much happens in it.
Here's the thing. You're not completely wrong there. But the way that the movies are paced, like now that you've read the books, the movies are paced so that they're much more exciting.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that, you'll talk about in these chapters of like, you didn't need to do this more than once. In the movies are like, okay, we'll only do it once.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what...
Like, we don't need this.
That's what
This
I've
is
heard about,
extraneous.
like, Two Towers and Return of the King, is that they do
Yes.
a lot better job of setting up that pacing.
They are still long as don't get me wrong, but once you have, like, the context behind the books and, like, you have all of that now, like, you know what's going on and who's who and, like, what their personal connections are, everything makes a lot more sense and is much easier to follow and is much more entertaining, and you get, like, all of the sets and the costuming and the design, which itself gives so much texture to this world and really does all of these long, sweeping descriptions justice in a visual format so you don't have to read 10 paragraphs about the woods.
I know, right? Oh, great.
I gotta go pee real quick.
Okay, potty break.
And that is also where we are going to end this week's episode. I know what you're thinking. What? We're only halfway through the chapter. That's because this is just part 1 of part 2. So here is Past Mary Clay with a nice microphone and the credits.
That's What I'm Talking About is a proud member of WB&E. You can learn more about that by going to WB&E.org. And you should listen to Bacon and Eggs, the podcast that started it all. And here's more about that right now.
Howdy, yokes. I'm Tyler Carlin.
And I'm Ethan Edgehill.
And we host Bacon and Eggs, a movie lovers podcast.
It's the most roll your eyes, I've seen it before concept for a show.
But with new hosts, I promise. Each week, we sit down together and watch a beloved movie.
We start by looking at some critical and concrete points and let our conversation flow from there.
We've covered all sorts of movies, from Jaws to Little Women.
From the Lego Movie to the Lego Movie 2.
From Marvel to Star Wars.
From Back to the Future to Back to the Future Part 2.
And tangents from our frustrations with fast food
to discussing our fear of the mighty loon.
So if you want a podcast that makes you laugh,
download Bacon and Eggs, a movie lovers podcast.
With new episodes available every Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts, and now on WBNE.org.
Ghostbusters 2!
My hope and dream was that you would say that.
The cover art is by Graphite, aka Vaishon Brandon. You should support him on Instagram at graphite.vmb. You can find the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at TolkienAboutPod. You can also join the Facebook group. It's open to the public. You do, however, need to answer a question just to prove that you're not a robot. You can find me on Twitter at MCWhat'sUp and Instagram MCTurnedDownForWhat. And you can also support the podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/TolkienAboutPod. This week's sponsor is Katie Knight. Katie, thank you so much for your continued long support of the podcast. I appreciate it a lot, and I hope you're doing okay. I hope all my listeners are doing okay, but this is a personal, hey, I hope you're doing okay, specifically for Katie. There's also a new way that you can support the podcast. You can do this by getting a super shout out. I feel like I should make that an echoed sound effect. This is a message that I will read out, one-time payment, and I will read out this message on the podcast. There are options for actual people, individuals, and then also options for businesses. So let's say that you want to tell the world that, you know what, you don't think Cursed Child is actually all that bad and everyone else is just hating on it unnecessarily. You can do that with a super shout out. Maybe you are a business who delivers candles. You have a candle delivery business and you want to let the world know about it. You can do that with a super shout out. So go to WBNE.org to learn more about that.
Yes, so come back next week for part 2 of the Siege of Gondor. It's a great chapter. Like, holy cow. It's genuinely a fantastic chapter. It's got a lot of heft and it's great. It's great. I keep thinking back on it with like the same fondness I would a really quality cheesecake. I'm just like, that was a fantastic cheesecake. I wish I could experience eating that cheesecake again for the first time. Like, what a great cheesecake. So So come back next week for more cheesecake. And that's what I'm talking about. Okay, bye.